I'm driving a boat at the moment. It's not so much a boat for the water, but rather a boat for the car. This is a 1979 Lincoln, and one of the dimensions is 6 foot, and that's just the bonnet. And I'm with the owner, Mark. Mark, how long's the whole car?
It's 5.65 metres long. So it's, and this is the two-door one. I like to tell people this is the two-door one.
This is Americana, isn't it? That I'm just waving to the people here. Before we're just going out from the Harbord Bowling Club, where once a month they have here a show where people bring along their cars. Who's the group?
It's the Sydney Mechanica, or sometimes called Cars and Macchiatos. So, but it's the Northern Beaches chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and people just bring their cars along, and
yeah, you have to be a member. I mean, it's rather low cost membership, and I think it's $35 or $40 a year, but it's quite a good thing actually, because all the money goes to charity, so they raise for Bear Cottage and brain cancer and things like that.
It's lovely stuff. Can I say this is a wonderfully easy car to drive? Is that why you enjoy driving it?
Yeah, look, it's sometimes, cars are about mood, and sometimes I feel like, I just need to relax and chill a little, and obviously it's not quite as easy to reverse park as my little smart car, but we'll
come to the fact that you drive a smart car, which is totally practical. Tell me about the history of this one.
Yeah, so it's so this is an interesting story. This is a one-owner Beverly Hills car, Beverly Hills in California, not Sydney. The old gentleman bought this thing new in '79, and basically he decided that he'd run around his whole life in this car there. And long story short, he had it for his whole life. I understand it never left Beverly Hills. I've got a folder with every single receipt of everything that he ever spent on. It's got all the original 8-track. It's got his, you can see in the glove box here, it's got his original Cartier sunglasses that came with the car. And 31,000 miles is all it's done.
31,000.
Yeah, so...
I think he would be happy that you own it and just love it.
Yeah. You know those great stories where you see old people have their cars and they, they have them for life. Well, this is one of these guys. So
yeah, they tell me you went to the auction. You weren't actually thinking of buying it.
Yeah, well, look, I wasn't the one at the auction actually. A fella I know in Melbourne was at the auction, and he said, "Mark, you can't believe it. You want one of those silly big Lincolns? I've come across one." So here you go, and this is it.
It has some fairly modern technology to it.
Yeah, so even things like remote left mirror now, that's cable driven, so I'll let you concentrate on the road because it is a bit to navigate it.
I'm just going through a chicane here.
Yeah.
I'm going through at about 10 miles an hour.
Yes.
And I've got to tell you, that's fast enough.
Yeah, actually might want to go left here. It might make it more enjoyable, and you can not have to concentrate on the traffic. So yeah, the little things like, the pre-electric remote mirrors, so this is cable driven, which is quite incredible. I'm sorry for those who can't see. The miles to empty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and all of that stuff. Quadrasonic sound, so you can move the sound around in the car, and electric seats, and cruise control, and climate control, air conditioning, and so it's got all the toys.
When I got in the car, I was horrified to see that the back squab, we were looking in the back seat, folded forward without me having to unlatch it. In an accident, I thought that might be a problem, but they overcome that, don't they?
That's right. So what happens is, as soon as you pull this car into gear, it does a whole bunch of things. It locks the seats. Obviously, it predates, all the sort of modern stuff we got today, but it locks the seats and it warns you about, doors being unlocked and doors not properly closed and boots and bonnets open and all that. So it's quite amazing, actually. Yeah. Quite incredible. And that steering wheel, by the way, that goes up and down as well. So that's you can get that really in the comfortable. And the seats are 6-way, up and down, forward, back, lean and tilt and all that sort of stuff. So
I've got to say, the steering wheel makes me a little uncomfortable because it's so rigid.
Yeah.
And it's old style. I remember hopping in an old Holden Caprice and feeling the same sort of thing. But But having driven it for a short while, I feel better.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. I'm slipping into it like a pair of comfortable shoes.
Yeah, it's funny. We're probably not in its ideal environment, and as obviously in the streets in the US are a lot wider.
Yes. Yes.
But you get this thing on the freeway, and it is just such a joy to drive. I mean, it floats along. It's really not difficult. The steering is quite light. That just back to the steering wheel though. It's very 1970s and 80s. They had those thin rim wheels. I mean, we take for granted today all the cars, they've got those nice fat wheels that are kind of a little bit almost motorsport in their feeling, but that wheel is a very, very thin wheel. So yeah.
It is as light as a feather.
It is, yeah.
It's, I could comfortably just tour around these streets here without having to sort of, get the muscles going.
Yeah, no, it's you definitely won't get a workout driving this thing. Oh, well, you will your mind gets a workout because you're constantly watching, staying in the lane, and
yes,
it is quite. But once you get used to it, it is quite comfortable.
I've always found driving a left-hand car, I tend to go too far this way. I'm having to concentrate on keeping to the left. You have a number of American cars, don't you?
I do, yeah. For my sins, it's a habit my father taught me. 65 Pontiac, and I've got a 69 Mustang and 70 Dodge Daytona and a 73 Challenger. So,
oh, jeez.
So a little bit of an eclectic mix there, and I've had Corvettes and all that sort of stuff.
And you drive a smart car during the week?
I drive a smart car, yes. So my daily driver is a Smart ForTwo, which you could probably put in the boot of this thing. That suits me.
It would be as no longer than the bonnet.
No, in fact, you could probably put two of them under the bonnet.
But that's the way we're going, isn't it? Well, that you have the vehicle for the situation.
That's exactly right. So the cars of today, obviously, this is obviously from a bygone era. I think there was less cars on the road. People were probably, they didn't drive around as much as we do today. And whereas obviously down here, it doesn't matter what time of day, it's always busy. And then parking's a premium. Yes. So the little Smarty is good because it. I don't really have it for the low fuel usage. I have it more for the practicality of parking, because now that I've said that, I've probably put the mockers on myself, but I very rarely don't get a parking spot in it.
Talking about fuel consumption, what sort of engine have we got here?
So this is a 6.6 litre 400 cubic inch, which is the small motor, believe it or not. So and
the gearbox?
I believe it's a C6, Ford C6 transmission. So 3-speed auto. 3-speed auto, yeah. Yep, and big 9-inch Ford rear end in it. So disc brake front end. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, this was Lincoln's. This was Ford's Rolls Royce of the day. Yeah. So this was the car that, this was very popular with the paparazzi and this is back when Americans bought American cars, and the gangsters drove them.
Yes.
The nice people from New York City, and that they drove around in their Lincolns. It was this sort of Cadillac.
And it turns heads.
It certainly does, yeah, and surprisingly the kids love it. I've got a 10-year-old son, and he wasn't very interested until one day he saw a heap of his mates and, oh, the car, I love it. And all of a sudden now he has to sit in the front, and he would be with me today, except he's got his soccer trials on. So
yeah. Well, yes, we test a car each week, and sometimes I can be flavour of the month and sometimes I'm not. We had a McLaren out the other day, and so I think I was popular for a while.
Yeah, you notice much difference between that and this? But what about how nice it rides?
Where's the pedals?
Yeah.
But McLaren was remarkable around the city.
Yeah.
But it certainly had much more feel to the steering. You know, this you steer merely to go somewhere.
Yeah.
At the McLaren, you steered to feel it in a much better way. Next one down, isn't it?
I think you could generally describe that there in your hands as a tiller. Because yes, it is a land yacht. But it once you I've noticed you're getting quite relaxed in it now. And,
yes.
And it does you've got to obviously make up for the size, but it does allow you to quite enjoy the drive, and it's not a rattle box. And
no, a car that's this big and this old, really. I just let this E-Type Jaguar go out.
You should carve a nice hole down the side in that thing, which we mustn't do.
Well, we've got the fenders for it.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. You just line it up and slice away. A lovely Jag. So,
the XK.
Yeah.
120, yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yes, they are very, very elegant.
Yeah, the great thing about cars is, you know, for me it's about mood I'm in, you know.
Yes.
You know, I've got a Rangy at home too, you know, I feel like driving that, and I've got a Commodore Ute, I forgot to tell you about that. So, it just depends what mood I'm in.
Well, it also depends on the circumstances. My son is getting married, and so I've organised a wedding car.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and he's getting married down south on a farm, so we have to take some things down to it.
Yep.
So the wedding car is a Ram 1500.
Oh, nice.
Laramie, which is 4 seats of great comfort.
I've had one of those as well.
Yeah, with boot space in the back.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've got to get the keg and all that sort of stuff.
I had a Shelby one of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shelby.
Yeah, Carol Shelby did some. They did 97, he did 500 Shelby Ram Super Sports, and I had one of them, which I bought in Los Angeles and had it converted by a crowd in Seven Hills called California Conversions. So it was a great car.
Okay, I guess I don't have a reversing camera.
No, or sensors.
I've got to say there's quite a few turn lock to lock, but you know what, I've got no problem with that at all.
Right. Just use the force. It's a lovely old thing, isn't it?
Oh, Mark, that was a delight. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your trust in allowing me to drive this. It's very plush, very laid out. You think sometimes of Americans as being a bit crass in it, yet I think this really, it's fit for purpose.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We must keep in contact about some of your other cars as well.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I've got some of them down here. You can have a look.
Thank you.
Thanks,
no worries.
Mark. My pleasure.